don't know about you. Personally, I like money. I like to have money. I like to save money. We all know that this is a very expensive hobby, or at least it can be. I'm here to show you in this video some of the ways that you can save some money. A lot of these products that we use are marketed for reefing, but are available very easily from a lot of different places. So I'm going to show you a lot of the products that I use, a lot of the tools that I frequently use, and where to get them at half the price or maybe even less. As promised before, in the last video I talked about I had some toys coming in. I actually had one toy and I realized that I needed two. Um, I have a couple of different microscopes that came in last week so that we can do a lot of different really cool things, kind of some unique experiences on this channel. Um, right here this is a stereo microscope. Ignore the fact that it has two different eyepieces. That's for something separate. This is going to be for looking at the surface of things, looking at the surface of pods, things that light doesn't pass through. So we can get a really close-up look at a lot of these, crazy little critters we find crawling around our tank, and we can figure, are these good or not? What should we do with them? And if you see them up close, then when you see them in your tank, you can identify them and know whether it's a friend or a foe. The other microscope that I got is your standard compound microscopes. This would be the microscope that you think of when you think of a microscope. You can go up to 2,000 times magnification with this, so I can see bacteria at the smallest. There are a whole lot of creatures that are everywhere. Every square inch of your tank is covered in these things. And I'm going to show you what some of these things look like to show you how biological diversity is really important. As I said in the first video, I feel like it's one of the most important things, establishing a really biodiverse environment. And I'm going to show you what that looks like so that you can have a little better appreciation for everything going on in your tank 24 hours a day. So we're going to get into these things in the future. There will be an ID video for all the little things that you see people ask about all the time. Everyone has those questions. And then we're going to get into how diverse the environment is in your tank. Okay, so I'm going to go through a lot of the items that I use frequently or even on a daily basis to make my life in reefing a lot easier. A lot of things that you may buy for reefing are very readily available for a whole lot less. Places like Amazon, Home Depot, Walmart, etc. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about what you can get from Amazon. Tweezers. I'm using this set right now. It's got a curved tip. It's decent, but the one that I suggest is slightly different. I'm waiting on a new one to come. Look for a set of tweezers that have a serrated tip on the inside. It'll help you grip things like algae or whatever else you're trying to grip. It's a lot more useful than something that's smooth. And then a wider tip is also really useful. Scalpels, if you are fragging zoas, ditch the razor blade, save your fingers, save your hands. It's a lot more exact. You can maneuver with this a lot better. You can be a whole lot more precise. Your finger won't slip near as much. These are incredibly sharp. Please be careful, but available in at least packs of 10. They're sterile, and they'll help you. There are a lot more uses than just fragging zoas, but for zoas, you can't beat these. Toothbrushes, I'm always using some sort of toothbrush to clean things. I feel like most of reefing is just cleaning stuff. Um, I I think I bought a pack of toothbrushes and ended up using one of these, which has softer bristles. Softer bristles are good for much more delicate stuff. Maybe you're kind of cleaning around something that you don't want to, scrape away. Something with a softer bristle is going to be a lot more gentle. And then there's these, which are made for like gun cleaning, and they have a really stiff nylon bristle, and that's for when you really need to get in somewhere and just scrub stuff off. They're again really stiff. It comes with a larger side and a smaller side. It's about time to switch this one out, but you can get them in packs of several for not very much money, and I'm using these every day. So syringes, this right here is one of the syringes, a draw-up syringe with a lure lock and a blunt tip needle on it. You'll get these in packs of things like Aptasia X and other stuff to like kill Aptasia, but they are really good for several different things in the reef aquarium. The issue with like with Aptasia X is you only get one, and sometimes you'll bend this and it'll break off and you don't have one. So these can be bought, the whole thing, really cheap, really useful. Bone cutters are going to be really useful whether you're cutting, the rock around something that just isn't the right shape. You want to cut a frag that you got. You want to cut the stem off of it. Really anything, not just for fragging. I bought these on Amazon maybe 6.5 years ago for cheap, under $10, and they still work really great. I have bought several from BRS, and honestly, I was really disappointed. You can't really keep those wet. You got to clean them off really well, and if you don't, they completely lock up the joint of it. Can't even use them anymore. This one, you can just neglect and abuse, and it works fine. I mean, you don't have to get one that's for coral. It'll work just fine. I hope you'll be able to get as much use out of yours as I have for mine, because it's definitely paid for itself. Magic Eraser is just a brand name. So this is just a melamine sponge, and these are dirt cheap, available in huge packs, and you can clean, your acrylic tank, so you can't use your razor blade on them. You can use these to clean the acrylic tank, really get in there and scrub. It's not going to hurt anything. The side thing is you also can clean everything around the house, because you probably bought a pack of, I bought a pack of 50, and I still have a lot of them. So these are really cheap. Just remember, Mr. Clean Magic Erase is just a brand name. These are melamine sponges. Uh, I've recently gotten into these. These are like a hotel key card, except they're blank. And you can buy them. I think I bought a pack of 100 for $10 or less. And I bought one of the, I think it's made by Flipper, which I think is a Two Little Fishies brand. Um, and it actually uses these as the replaceable blade in the scraper. And so I figured I can actually just buy these. And even just in your hand on glass or acrylic, you can really scrape a lot of stuff off. You can clean things without worrying about scratching stuff. Super cheap. So whether you're buying it as a replacement blade for the flipper cleaner, the handheld one, or if you're just wanting to use these, handheld, they're a really great way to get your tank clean without risking scratching stuff. Big thing is being able to measure stuff. There's a whole lot of different, graduated cylinders, and you need to sometimes be really exact with the amount of water, RODI, or the amount of liquid that you're adding to, usually to rehydrate some substance to make a stock solution, whether it's calcium, strontium, potassium. some of the things like the GHL KH director reagent you can actually make yourself, but you need to be pretty exact. So these things, I have a 100 milliliter one around here somewhere, and up to 1,000 mils. These are great to know exactly how much liquid you're adding. Uh, Again, typically RODI, and they're plastic. So my clumsy self, I don't break them, and that's pretty important because I'll break just about anything. So it saves me from myself. The last thing with Amazon would be a scale. This is a really precise one. This measures, I think, tenths and hundredths of a gram. So it may even do thousandths. I can't remember. So when I'm doing things like adding phosphate to a bunch of water or nitrate, I want to be really, really exact because there's not a whole lot of room for error. What you are going to want is at least a scale that measures in like tenths of grams, 1.2 grams, 1.5 grams. And a lot of times that will be exact enough for you to rehydrate a lot of the different things you get. I'm thinking of the Brightwell strontium, potassium, a lot of those things. You buy a small container, but you can make a bunch of it, several gallons of the solution. You're going to need, I think it's a lot better to use a scale and then, know exactly how much you're adding to it. So these things can be had really cheap. All of this can be had really cheap and is super useful, and, will take care of you for a while. So a place where there's all kinds of cheap stuff, and some of it you can use for reefing. Walmart. This contains my probably number one used device. So you can get this type of stuff. A turkey baster. There are a lot of different types. Not really types, but there are a lot of different designs. They just look different. Pro tip: if you get your turkey baster, take a couple of zip ties and put them along pretty tight along the bottom. Otherwise, when you're trying to squeeze water out to blow things around, it'll tend to blow air out between the soft rubber and the plastic tube. So turkey baster, gotta have it. There's stuff. Some reefing companies make them. They're really expensive. Doesn't need to be. It's a turkey baster. It's not rocket science. Filter pad. So on some of my tanks, this one included, I use filter pad, and there's two different types of the polyester filter material. There's the floss, which is just sort of like a big mass of polyester. You can just pull off some. Some people stuff it in your filter cups or whatever you do with it. Or there's the actual pad. This is polyester batting. I guess it's used for quilting, and I don't know what else. I don't quilt. But make sure that whether you buy the floss or the pad, uh, make sure that it doesn't say mold resistant, or make sure that there aren't any added chemicals to make it, whether it's mold resistant, fire resistant, a lot of those different things. You don't want any additives on this. This itself is just polyester, and this will work great. I like to cut it into strips for this tank. So I mean, it takes just like this, put it in one of the filter baskets, and it does a great job on the tanks that I'm not using filter socks on. So you have some options with this. They're, it's super useful. Tupperware type uh, containers. Seems to be a hobby of containers. Different size things. I use this to acclimate, dip, um, you know, colonies, a couple colonies. I have a larger one to do a lot more stuff. Whether you're treating something with antibiotics and it's only a couple things, a handful of things, depending on what it is, you're just going to find the need for tons of different plastic containers. And you may have some lying around. I urge you to not use the ones that you use for food. Just don't do it. It's not good, and also you'll have people in your house who disagree with your use of that. Just avoid it. But yes, they're very useful. I found a pack that was a whole bunch of different sizes that I think is just going to have you set as far as containers for a really long time for not very much money. Last thing with Walmart is measuring cups. A lot of the packs of the measuring cups, they'll have obviously a bunch of different cups. I use this one cup one most often for my salt, and they'll have teaspoon, tablespoon, fractions of each of those, half cups, whatever it is. You'll find that there are some that you don't use as much as others. I like plastic because plastic doesn't rust. It's kind of a cool thing about it, and everything rusts in if it's metal in a marine environment. So I use this all the time for my salt. I think I have a couple that I use for measuring out a couple of other things, but just a plastic set of these is super useful. You'll use it pretty often. Okay, so after shooting this whole video, I put it together and realized that it was over 30 minutes long, so I decided to break it up into two parts. This will be part one. The other part that will be coming very soon, I'll cover things that you can get at Home Depot, Restaurant Supply, and the much maligned Harbor Freight. So stay tuned and happy reefing.